Hi guys, Wargamer Dad here. Welcome to, once again, a late episode. I am going to try and sort of deal with that and get a good one up today. But today we're going to be reviewing issue 15. If anyone's interested why I'm late, I've had a bit of an all-hands-on-deck week. I left one job to go to another job, and by the time I got all the paperwork and training through from the second job, it had completely vanished. So I've been running around like a blue-ass fly. I do this mostly as a hobby. But that aside, episode 15, issue 15. We've got a pretty good issue this week. We've got the flayed ones, which we have 5 models for, which is pretty freaking awesome. And will be given away at the end of the video to one lucky subscriber who comments. Very plastic. These models are, frankly, in my opinion, some of the coolest models and some of the most flavoursome models that Necrons get. They are also, however, probably the most breakable and delicate models that Necrons get. You've got a lot of long protruding bits. You've got very, and you can see how narrow this bit is. Very narrow bit sticking out all angles. Another problem you're going to have, another one where you're going to have the same problem you have with a lot of other cool but delicate models. They'll be great at your house. If you want to transport them, are going to be a bit of an issue. But still pretty fantastic models. You got 5 of them, and if I go on GW's website, for a pack of 5, it is $31.50. That is not cheap for a pack of 5 models. Let me just check the description, make sure I'm... See, it doesn't tell you how many models you get in the pack. It's just a picture of 5 models. Thirst they can never quench, more macabre, blah 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 blah. These models are scary, so let's see if I can't. Yep, the pack is for 5 flayed one models when you buy it. So, and this has 5 bases and 5 models in it. So, I mean, that's a fantastic saving. I mean, I may sit there and look at the site and go, "Wow, $31.50 for 5 models," but it is worth it is worth remembering. No, $8.99 for 5 models. So, as much as GW are trying to make money, they are clearly also trying to make the game accessible where they can. Which is somebody with very little money and no job currently, I really appreciate. Yeah, so you are saving £22.51 if you buy the magazine. So if you're a Necron player, go and get a couple of these. Heck, go out and get 3 of them. You can get 3 squads of flayed ones currently for less than 1 squad would normally cost you. That is insane. I mean, unless there's something I'm missing. So you've got 5 bases there. Let's double check, because they've been sneaky on models before. Easiest way to do it is to count the main bodies, which at this point is the spine bits, which we can see here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, unless I'm missing something, it does appear to be 5 models on this sprue. So feel free to contradict me if I'm wrong and send me a correction. But if this is a full sprue, which it very much appears to be, that's one of the best savings we've had. Yeah, so if you're a Necron player, absolutely fill your boots if you can. Definitely one worth getting. The models are yeah, the models are very intricate and very detailed. You've got a lot of spines and fangs and bits of flesh going over them. If we just look at the description of the flayed ones, yeah, down there. Flayed ones, keen, shrill hunting cries as they fall upon the foe, talons flashing, infected with the gruesome flayer virus. Covered in macabre remains of the latest victims, the flayed one stalks into battle, striking swiftly from the darkness. Their hunched stature, long claws, and flayed skin make them stand out against other Necron units. It says it making them an ideal audition, but certainly it gives you a lovely contrast with all that metal. You've got flesh and stuff here. Flayed ones are basically a terror troop. Let's have a look. Yeah, they're basically a terror troop that's designed to be really quite scary. As I say, they've got a lot of claws and details. There's heads. Do I have 5 heads? There's 1 head. There's a 2nd head. There's a 3rd head. There's a 4th head, and there's a 5th head. Yeah. After some of the lower value ones that we've had with the paints, where the value for money was still okay, but not brilliant. This one is a very welcome change. Like I say, if someone's got a spare copies of these in their shop and you collect Necrons, get more. I mean, like I say, you could get 3 of these magazines, get 15 flayed ones, and be paying less than you would if you go into the store and buy them. That's insane. But at the same time, that's a thank you GW and Hatchet Part Works moment, because yeah, there are a lot of people like myself who just would struggle to get into the games at those prices. I mean, I go into GW every now and then. I go into my friendly local gaming store, and my friendly local gaming store does a significant discount on 40k stuff. But even then, I look at stuff and it's like, some things I can buy, a lot of things I look at and it's like, that is really beyond what I can justify. So the Imperium Magazine and its predecessors have really allowed me to collect a lot of stuff. One of the reasons I went with Space Marines was because, despite the fact they've done Space Marines twice, Space Marines are their favourite thing, so it's exceptionally likely they would do Space Marines again if they kept going, if this basically worked as a business model for them. And it has. I think it's one thing of, if they're getting people in and those people are just buying 1 or 2 extra boxes, yet being able to play the game, that's got to work for them as well. I kind of assume, like I say, that they're using it to clear excess stock, but either way, I don't really care. Start with the magazine on the inside page, signed by our Necron Overlord Ian, and straight into the flayed ones. Flayed ones. I'll do the Necron. I'll try and do the Necron. I can't remember what the Necron voice is from episode to episode. Flayed ones are monstrous Necrons affiliated by a mysterious curse that compels them. I went into Dr. Evil then. That compels them to attempt to devour the flesh of the living and take their skin and bones as trophies. Yeah, basically, they attack normal creatures and try and skin them. It's got a basic. I've got a nice explanation here. Long ago, the Catan known as Landukgor the Flayer was destroyed by the Necrons. It is said with his last breath he cursed the Necron race. This curse resulted in a creeping madness known as the Flayer virus. Those Necrons affected by this virus awaken with a degenerate hunger for the warm flesh and blood of the living. So that's pretty cool. kind of similar in look to some of the ghouls and vampires from Age of Sigmar or Fantasy. Flayed ones are not only feared by their living prey, but by their fellow Necrons who believe the flay of virus to be contagious. As the virus takes hold, their bodies are mutated, transforming them into blade-limbed monstrosities. Flayed ones appear whenever the Necrons make war. Mortals who have faced them in battle know them by many names. So they've got some names. They've got some name charts, which I love. And some rules for degradations, mutations, and trophies. Give you an example. One of the designation charts is the Skin Takers, and the other one is another one at the end is the Dread Devourers. The degradations are screams at the sight of blood, or preys on the wounded, or runs on all four limbs. So, you've got mutations, flesh-stripping claws, legs enhanced for sprinting. You've got trophies, wear cloaks of human skin, rip out victims' spines. So it's all pretty cool. And they've got a thing which allows you to keep track of every unit your unit devours. So that's also pretty awesome. Next, we've got the Imperium Sanctus. This region of the Imperium has survived the opening of the Great Rift largely intact. Here, the Astronomicon still shines brightly in this age of nightmares. However, no part of the galaxy is safe. Sorry, I should be doing the voice, but I've got a bit of a sore throat. I shall attempt it in a minute. The Imperium Sanctus is A, where the Soul Sector is, and B, where the Ultramarines and their sort of mini Ultramar sector kind of are. And as such, it's always been the most well protected area, and it's always been the sort of the bulwark of the Imperium. Now with the Great Rift, that's kind of dichotomy is even more obvious in that the majority of the armies of the Imperium are trapped on one side, and the other side is very difficult for them to support. So, the Imperium are very much, if not ascendant, certainly able to focus their troops on a smaller area. So, in the Imperium Sanctus, and what's not maybe losing or being destroyed, the Imperium is certainly much more beleaguered on the other side. To the point where the Imperium Sanctus has a returned Primarch. The Imperium Nihilus has Commander Dante of the Blood Angels, who, whilst he is awesome, is not Guilliman. It's led some people to postulate that maybe we might be seeing a return of Sanguinius, which maybe we will, maybe we won't. He's one of the few Primarchs where his death is pretty confirmed. No one's 100% dead, and you can't guarantee that they won't just randomly rise up. But there are a lot of Primarchs who have return stories written into them. Lionel Johnson is supposedly hidden. Lionel Johnson supposedly vanished and no one knew where. Now it says he's hidden in a stasis chamber in the rock somewhere, allegedly. Slowly healing in a very similar way to Guilliman. Lehman Russ just left, went out for a smoke and never came back. So it's entirely possible that he might come back, particularly because the Wolfen, who were lost in the Iron Terror, have returned, and one of the theories is that he went into the Iron Terror to basically just hunt down and kill his brothers, but we don't really know. It's got a base. Further here, we've got a base description of the Sol system, the Emperor Ultramar, as I said. the Empire of Ultramar has always been one of the more stable areas of the Imperium, which it goes into here. One of the theories was that the Emperor had war Primarchs, which, some people sort of saying, okay, these Primarchs are going to fight forever, and then, sorry, not fight forever, they were going to fight until the galaxy was conquered, and then the Emperor was going to kill them. But being as there were only 20, it looks like some of them were intended for continual war. Others were actually intended to build strongholds and defend the Empire. Guilliman very much looking like an empire builder and an administrator. Rogel Dawn continually building defences. Even Lehman Russ, who is known as one of the more aggressive Primarchs, his battle style was much more what they call sorties. They just stay at home. He's supposed to stay at home and have a lot of fun, drink, and then kind of go out and fight battles, go out and have adventures. Meaning that at least some of the Primarchs seem to have been built. So I'm just explaining myself. Seem to have been built with the idea of sustainability in mind. With some of the Chaos Primarchs also kind of looking to be built kind of that way, but having been warped and made extreme by Chaos. Certain Primarchs may not have been viable. Obviously, we're looking at not Perturabo. Who am I thinking? Perfection Boy. That's the thing. We're looking at a lot of them. Some of them look to have been more sustainable, but Fulgrim, that's the one. Fulgrim, who was very much about the perfection, does look like he was initially designed to be able to guide civilizations and build stuff before he fell to Chaos. You've got Angron, who we really don't know what he would have been like before he fell to Chaos, because of the Butcher's Nails turned him into something he was never designed to be. Perturabo, again, a siege breaker and a siege builder. There are a lot of sort of places for sustainable Primarchs, even for some of the Primarchs, even on the assumption that a peaceful galaxy is possible. With an empire spanning an entire galaxy, the likelihood was there would always be skirmishes and battles enough for Space Marines, at least. But as I say, Guilliman was one of those Primarchs where you can completely see what role he could play in a non-military empire. He could still have a limited number of Space Marines, but building, maintaining, and defending empires is clearly something he's good at doing. And the Ultramar sector is basically a mini empire within the empire, which has caused eruptions in the past. Next, we've got Space Marine Chapter Command. Those Space Marine chapters are highly efficient fighting machines. They must contend with grueling attrition and numberless foes. To succeed, each chapter requires brilliant leaders with sharp minds who live and breathe the arts of war and logistics. Every chapter needs to be led by someone who's basically a battle genius, because you've only got 1,000 warriors and you're constantly fighting, and to just avoid being wiped out, even through Pyrrhic victories, takes a lot of effort. And it is an effort that not all chapter commanders actually manage. A prime example is the Crimson Fists. The Crimson Fist chapter were decimated from 1,000 Marines to 250 Marines. due to a failure of their planetary defences when they all happen to be at home for some reason. There are plenty of other, like the Shadow Wolf chapter, which is an Imperial Fist descendant rather than a Space Wolf descendant. Is a chapter that died fighting Tyranids, I believe. They were held in very, very high regard by the Black Templar chapter because the Black Templars saw them die. Yeah, and they basically said, well, this is if you're going to die, if you're going to fail, this is the perfect way to fail and die. Standing and fighting to literally the very last bloke. They literally saw record. They saw there was one guy left holding the banner, shooting people when he got overrun by Tyranids. And to the Black Templars, that's the perfect way to die. There is no better way to die. So you really need military commanders who know what they're doing. Even the worst, and by worst I mean least effective Space Marine chapters, have to be led by somebody who is professional. You can't afford to lose 1,000 Space Marines just through stupidity. Also, it kind of shows where you've got to be getting more than one astronaut out of a Space Marine. It's one of my own pet theories, and I haven't seen it confirmed anywhere. If you have, please let me know. But I think that they harvest gene seeds from a Space Marine more than once, or grow extra ones. Or at least I think they have to, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to maintain numbers. There has to be a way in which they're getting additional Space Marines. You can't just be having a Space Marine die, harvest his gene seed, and make another Space Marine. There need to be other ways of doing that. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, this goes into how chapter command is built, what the command structure is, and roughly how they work, which is pretty cool. We're running through here. They've got a few of the few of the more well-known chapter masters. We've got Marnius Calgar, who is the chapter master of the Ultramarines. Yes, obviously Gilliman's taking more direct command of the Ultramarines, but Marnius Calgar is A, his right-hand man, and B, still chapter master. And in addition to that, it has been sort of noted on several occasions that he doesn't just take charge of Ultramarines, he takes charge of whatever chapters are in the area, and often Ultramarine descendant chapters. So there are going to be bits where Gilliman's off fighting places and the Ultramarines aren't necessarily with him. You might have, so Marnius Calgar is still very much the commander of the chapter, despite his Primarch being there. He's also one of the first Marines of the old Marine style to go through the conversion process to a Primaris Marine, so he's also pretty awesome. Next, we have my absolute favourite, Logan Grinner, or Wolf Daddy, as we often call him. He's got a lot of names like the Old Bear or Wolf Daddy and stuff like that. He's the chapter master of the Space Marines on his flying sled pulled by wolves. I'm a Space Marine pro, and even I'm looking at it going, you shoehorned those wolves in there. You really did. It's a bit weird, but he is a badass character. You've got Commander Dante of the Blood Angels, who's the chapter master of the Blood Angels, and the regent of the Imperium Nilhus. You've got Kavan Shrike, chapter master of Raven Guard. Pedro Cantor, chapter master of the Crimson Fist, as I just mentioned. They are one of the cooler chapters because they are very beleaguered. And then you've got High Marshal Helbrecht of the Black Templars. Who was actually been one of the cooler chapter masters. He's ironically probably one of the ones with the least control over his chapter, kind of on purpose. Helbrecht and Cantor are almost opposites in terms of numbers. Cantor is... I say that. I don't know where the Imperial Fists stand at the moment. They may well have been rebuilt using using Primaris, but he was the chapter master of a beleaguered group of only 250 Marines desperately trying to rebuild his chapter after the Homeworld was invaded by Orcs. Therefore, he kind of has the ability to sort of micromanage and really get in there, whereas Helbrecht is in charge of the Black Templars, and there are so many Black Templar Crusades who've gone off in different directions that even the Black Templars don't really know how many Black Templars there are. Some of the estimates put them at pre-heresy legion size, you know, being somewhere near 10,000 Marines, with field commanders commanding units of 500, 600, 300, and whilst Helbrecht is technically the chapter master, if he had accurate knowledge and counts of his Marines, he might be forced to tell the Imperium that they'd exceeded their numbers. So some of the rumours have it that Helbrecht has, you know, deliberately doesn't know what's going on in some of his chapters or in some of his chapter because they've kind of expanded beyond that, beyond the 1,000 number. You know, he's sort of like, he knows what's going on, but officially he deliberately doesn't officially know what's going on. So that's pretty cool. And there's a lot of difference in this. Different commanders command in different ways. Calgar very much from the back, but you know, Logan Grinner, Dante, and Logan Grinner and Dante lead from the front. Kievan Stroik is very much about the precision strikes, which supposedly means a lot of these other guys are relied on to work on their own initiative. You know, they'll be going for radio silence and all sneaking around doing things, and then all of a sudden come out of nowhere with these rapid, overwhelming assaults, meaning that 9 times out of 10 there isn't time for them to stop, give orders, and maneuver except in the most dire of circumstances. So, you know, he leads his guys overall and makes the plan. Once they're in combat, a lot of their units are going to work individually and independently, and he's going to rely on his sub-commanders to know what they're doing and to understand what he wants from them. So it's really cool with the chapter masters. A lot of them are very, very different. Some lead from the front, some lead from the back, some are very adaptable, some have very, very specific styles at which they really, really excel. And it does cover a bit of that here. We've even got a quote from Achilles Zenaris, chapter master of the Silver Templars. "Upon my shoulders rests the burden of command. The fate of the world lies in these hands. Yet this is a responsibility I gladly embrace, for I live to serve the Emperor. To wield power in his name is an honor." That kind of goes on and on. But, you know, you've got really cool stuff there. And a brief description of Honor Guard. I'm not going to read any of this because you guys want to read it. But almost every chapter master has a group of elite Marines that make up a sort of kind of supernumerary strike force where they're the baddest of the bad, and if the chapter master himself feels he needs to intercede, he can do so with incredibly excessive and effective force, well beyond what you'd expect from the numbers. They're also there to make sure the chapter master doesn't die, because if he is giving commands, and if he has to give commands, then he needs to be protected, so that he's there to assess the situation and to give commands. Also, you'll often find that the Honor Guard also amongst his most trusted warriors. So often you'll find members of the Honor Guard are put in charge of their own little operations. On occasion. They go by various names. For the Space Wolves, they're the Wolf Guard. For the for the Manis, Calgar, I think they're called the Praetorian or Vanguard or something like that. But each unit has kind of its own name. It's kind of its own thing. And a lot of the Honor Guard are where you really see sort of the individualism of the chapters, particularly in the models. A prime example, you've got an Ultramarine Honor Guard there. He's got the wings on the face. Got a lot of very sort of unique Ultramarine stuff, Ultramarine iconography and stylisticness that you don't see on models outside of the Ultramarines or their successor chapters. The Wolf Guard for the Space Wolves are all completely unique. Whereas the Honor Guard for the Ultramarines, they can carry their own weaponry. They're often kind of outfitted in a similar way. Every single Wolf Guard is considered a massive hero in his own right, and they're the guys that are next up to be company masters, or even chapter masters, and so they're considered individual heroes with unique sagas. And because of that, each one of them tends to be equipped in a fairly unique way, in whatever way works best for them. So there is really a lot of variance in a lot of this stuff, and there's only a few brief things, but this is where some of the good stuff is. And again, as I'll almost certainly say in the back of this, look it up online. You can really kind of make your own guys. Give me a second. Give you an idea. I'm actually working on a Space Wolf successor chapter. I was going to try and do Wolf Spear, but I kind of don't. I'm not that thrilled with the colour scheme. It's cool, but I kind of want to do my own thing. Plus, I have kind of very minimalistic time to really devote to the hobby. So I wanted something that was really quick. So I'm going for a dry brush brass thing. And yes, he has a sword for a hand. And yes, I have been watching Shang-Chi. And yes, he is blatantly a copy of Razorfish from Shang-Chi in Space Marine form. But you can't stop me. No. But it really, these are the areas that really give you the play to kind of expand your guys and make them look cool, make them be cool, make them individuals. Particularly if you're looking to create your own chapter, which 40k very much encourages you to do. Okay, so we've got the assembly on the old ones, and we've got a thing here, a nice little sort of indicator here going dry fit, telling you that a lot of these models can be dry fit. One of the things about me is there's a lot of uniqueness in here, and they're very delicate, so they are recommending that you dry fit the models first. Basically, you put the models together. In some cases, all you actually need to do is put them together and they'll stay. In other cases, what you want to do is you want to just dry fit them to make sure you've got the right parts that you're trying to glue together before you glue them, particularly with delicate models, because the glue can get everywhere and you can damage models. So that's a thing. It's also giving some glue tips here, which I really like. And it is something I do. It's like you put the glue on, and then if you've got a bit much glue on, use a bit of tissue paper, and you'll just absorb some of the glue off so that you don't get glue everywhere, and so you don't lose detail. These guys are fairly complicated, so it is worth reading them and following the instructions. and they are fairly delicate, so if you glue them together wrong, it is going to be a pain in the backside to take them apart without damaging something. So yeah, these guys are modelling on hard mode. Obviously we've got the painting guide. You can paint these guys any way you like. And then we've got destroy the plasma site. Another mission using the scenery and the big orange map. Yeah, you've got your large battle map. And on this one, you're just setting up the Marines and a kinetic plasma site. So this is nice because you're actually starting off with the flayed ones in reserve. And they're basically, let's have a look. Yep, you've got the rule for teleporting here, or rather as it's called in this one, dimensional translocation. This unit can start the game off the tabletop. It can then be deployed in the reinforcement step of any Necron player's movement phase. That's an interesting wording, any Necron player. If you're having a multiple-sided game, you can teleport them in any time. They've got additional rule, Flesh Hunger, which is a special rule for them. Hit rolls of a 6 in melee score 2 hits rather than 1. Roll the extra wound dice following the attack sequence as normal. If we go through their stats, they've got a movement of 5, which is reasonable. Weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 6+. I'm not entirely sure they have a ballistic weapon, so it doesn't matter. There are instances where you can take over other weaponry, which is why models without weaponry have rather often have a ballistic skill, but yeah, it's very rare you're going to use it. You've got strength and toughness of 4, which is the same as a Marine, wounds of 1, attacks of 3, and a save of 4+. The Flayer claws are user strength, AP -1 and 1 damage. You do have the ability to roll 6s, so you have a potential of 6 damage, but it's unlike with 3 attacks, but it's unlikely. So that's pretty cool. They've got and again they've got a rematch if you play it and you want to try it again. When you finish the playthrough, you can play it using a Royal Warden in place of a Canoptic Plasma Site and the Primaris Captain in place of one of the units of Assault Intercessors. And the stats those can be found in previous editions. Yep. Yep. So yeah, it goes through the movement. On the first turn, it has the flayed ones arrive as reinforcements. They are set up in unit coherency and more than 9 inches from enemy units. So that's pretty cool. It is worth noting that does put them within charge range of some guys if you roll well, but they're still pretty cool. So, and you've got the plasma sort of running away to the edge of the table. It's worth noting the reason you have a plasma site is because one of the 40k rules, and I believe it is still a rule, is that if at any turn you have nothing on the table, that's it, game over, you've lost. They've managed to destroy you. They're going to do whatever their objective is, and then they're going to osk you before you get more guys on. Obviously, you've got several roles there. With each Canoptic guy having 3 attacks with a unit of 5, that's a potential of 15 hits. If you manage to roll inhumanly luckily and get all 6s, you've got a potential of 30 hits for the unit, which is very nasty. Realistically, you've got a 1 in 6 chance of doing it, so 1 in 6 out of 15 means you may get 1 or 2 extra hits, which isn't much, but it can be enough to gradually swing the battle. And it continues as you expect through that battle. Next, standard insert in the back. As I said earlier, it's got you some of the stuff on chapter command and honor guards here, which is worth a read. But it's also worth looking at what the chapter guard and what the chapter commanders and honor guards are for various Marine chapters, because it's really useful and really inspirational. You can really get some good ideas for a chapter you might like to make, or you can find a chapter that you want to copy. There are loads of chapters out there. Some are people's personal chapters. Others are official canon. Some are both. It's what the Shadow Walls I mentioned earlier, which are as a chapter that completely got wiped out, are actually a chapter I used to paint, and I looked into the background. Turns out they are actually canon because they're mentioned in one of Adam Dembski-Bowden's books. But the original chapter is the chapter his missus plays. As our own personal chapter. So that one kind of qualifies as both. I'm always of the opinion that if you put your chapter out there, you're kind of saying that other people can play it. Certainly if it's in canon, and if it's a specific chapter that is definitely exists in the 40k universe, then anyone gets to paint it and play with it, because that's how that works. However, some people are more protective. If you look up a chapter and it's somebody's own personal chapter that they love, that they made, they might get miffed if you take it. But at the same time, there are so many chapters out there you can use for inspiration, even with minor tweaks. You can get something cool out of, and there is pretty much no way you can make a completely unique chapter, if only for the simple reasons that there are a limited number of color combinations out there. That, and you could drive yourself mad by making your chapter scheme too complicated so that it's unique and never get around to painting with them, because it could take forever. Anyway, but finally we're on to the back page. Next week, more intercessors, which makes me very happy because I just built 5 of them. So I'm going to be making more of them. Might have to go and buy another box of old Space Wolf ones. I know my GW has one spare somewhere. Mostly because I have been I've been building my guys with Space Wolf weaponry and heads to maintain a kind of unique Space Wolf feel. So that's pretty cool. And again, we've got some more Munitorum armored containers. This one is showing 1 container, a bunch more boxes. The boxes, to my knowledge, come with 3 container. Sorry, the armored container boxes, which they're sold in scenery bits, to my knowledge, come with 3 containers in them. So maybe that you were just getting 1 and more stuff. But like I say, it's good, simple, solid scenery, and it holds together quite well. So you can't really go wrong with that. If we look at the magazines, next week, again, Assault Intercessors, updated rules reference and rules for large units, which is cool. Issue 17, we've got Munitorum armored containers, Necron Dynasties fold out, and new psychic phase rules, which is again pretty cool. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope to see you next week, provided things don't get worse and I end up completely broke. Sorry, stressing out towards the end, my apologies. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll almost forgot. As always, the Necro stuff is stuff I'm not playing and I'm not interested in, so this is going to be given away as a prize. You need to subscribe to the channel and make a comment below. It can be anything, including just a dot if you don't feel like actually making a comment. But I really do prefer when people make comments. I like to try and get conversations started and have a bit of community going there, because frankly, that's what the fun is. I'll see you guys next week.